Hey everybody! Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Entitled Parents Reddit video. If you are new to the channel, then subscribe and click on notifications so you don't miss out on the fun. In our first story, an entitled mother gets mad when our OP buys her child an airplane seat. Let's jump right in. So I have a son who is currently 2.5 years old, but we've been traveling by plane since he was 6 months old due to our living an 18-hour drive from my family, my parents, younger siblings, grandparents, etc. In the US, you generally don't need to buy an airplane ticket for a child under 2 years old. You can buy a seat, like if you want to bring your baby in their carrier or just want to use a car seat, but they can also be considered a lap child and sit in your lap for free. When my son was about 1.5 years old, we were flying back to my hometown to go visit my family. We were flying on an airline named the opposite of Northeast. On this airline, an adult with a child under 6 years old gets to board right after the A1 to 10-ish boarding numbers and before the A11 to 60 or whatever it is. This was helpful for me to get me some extra time to find a seat and settle with my kid. Now he was under 2, so he could have flown for free and sat in my lap, but after the flight we had taken a few months before that, where he was hell on wheels and I was mortified by how terrible we probably made our roommates' flights, I decided to buy him a plane ticket so we would have a little more room for our things. Diaper bag, toys to entertain him, snacks, juice, breast milk, blanket, etc. I hated to feel like I was inconveniencing other passengers with my child when I had to keep him to such a small confined space. To begin with, it was better to give him some extra room in the form of his own seat so as not to crowd others when he wanted to get out of my lap or try to look out the window, etc. Plus, then I could sit between him and provide a buffer for his wayward feet. He was generally, and still is, a really good little traveler, but every 1.5-year-old has their moments, as other parents can understand. I swear, I do my best to keep him under control. If you've never flown with a child under 2 as a lap child, you should know that when you go to check your bags at the airport, you get a normal boarding pass for yourself, as well as a boarding pass for the child that clearly says lap infant across the top of it. Otherwise, if you buy your child a ticket, they get a normal boarding pass like everybody else with your boarding group and number. This airline has rows of 3 seats on either side of a very narrow aisle. I tend to stick to the far back rows just in case I need to leave the seat with him when we're in the air, and also to try to put some distance between us and other passengers. So we board with family boarding. I grab 2 seats all the way in the very back row, shove all of our stuff into the seats, and go about trying to settle our things. My son decided to sit in the seat by the window and was watching the ground crew do their thing. I was sitting in the middle seat beside him, the aisle seat was empty, and the plane started to fill up. But again, we were at the very last row, so many people found a seat before they made it to us. Or they saw I had a kid with me and decided to sit elsewhere. I can't blame them. When the plane was about 3/4 full, I hear someone say, excuse me, in a rather snobby voice. I turn to see a woman, maybe 30s, I'm in my early 20s, with a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Before I could even respond, the entitled mother demands that I move to the aisle seat and take my son with me so that her daughter could sit by the window. I want to say that if my son was flying free and was a lap infant, I wouldn't have had an issue with moving to the aisle seat to let the little girl sit by the window if the mom had asked me nicely. However, I had purchased 2 tickets with my own money, which isn't easy to swing when you're a single mom, and even if I moved to the aisle seat, my son would have the middle seat and she'd have to sit apart from her daughter. I was not going to be used as a babysitter for someone else's kid on a flight, even if I didn't have my own child to deal with. I tried to explain this to her. It went a little something like this. "Oh, I would, but I bought 2 seats, and even if I moved, there'd only be 1 seat open, so you might want to try somewhere else so you can both sit together. There were still entire rows that were empty on the plane at this point. You're lying. He's clearly not even 2 yet, and under 2, they fly free and sit in your lap. Please move, now. Yes, kids can fly for free in your lap, but I specifically bought him his own ticket so he could have his own seat and more room. There are several rows a bit further forward that are still empty and have window seats. Well, he's small. You should just hold him. My daughter wants to sit by the window and I need to be in the last row, so just hold him so we can sit here. The very back row on the other side was taken up already. I'm really sorry, but no, we need the extra space. I bought and paid for the extra seat. I'm not going to give it up just because you feel entitled to this space. Our things are already settled and stowed away. At this point, the entitled mother is working herself up into a tizzy and has caught the attention of the older couple sitting across the aisle. The husband tries to tell this entitled mother to just choose somewhere else to sit, but she snapped at him to mind his own business. Kinda hard inside such a small space. So when she turned her attention back to me, and my now fussing child because this strange lady is yelling at mommy, the wife waved down one of the flight attendants who came over. And that went along these lines. Hello, are we all okay over here? No! This girl refuses to put her son in her lap to make room for us even though he's clearly less than 2 and can fit in her lap. The flight attendant turns to me. Ma'am, is your child a lap infant? He is less than 2 years old. See? I told you! Make her move! But I did purchase him a ticket because I knew he would appreciate having some extra space to get out of my lap. I had grabbed both of our normal paying customer boarding passes and handed them to the flight attendant. See? That doesn't prove anything. They give boarding passes for lap infants. The flight attendant turned back towards the entitled mother. Yes, they do give boarding passes for lap infants, but this is not a lap infant boarding pass. So I'm sorry, but she paid for that seat and there is no assigned seating, so you can't ask her to move. The entitled mother started going crazy, screaming at me, at the flight attendant. Her child is crying, but I think it may have been more out of embarrassment than that I or the flight attendant was telling them no. Anyways, the flight attendant ended up threatening to have air marshals remove her from the plane if she didn't quietly find different seats. The entitled mother huffed angrily, promised to write a terrible review, and told the flight attendant specifically she was going to call opposite of Northeast Airlines corporate office and have her fired for treating the entitled mother and her daughter so poorly. The daughter did get her window seat further up the plane. The flight attendant rolled her eyes where only I and the older couple could see, and she apologized for the commotion. The rest of the flight went smoothly. My kid laughed when the plane took off and then passed out in his own seat with his head on my leg about 20 minutes into the flight and slept the whole time. And the flight attendant gave me a complimentary glass of wine once he was asleep. I told the pilots at the end of the flight how wonderful she was. I saw the entitled mother inside the airport afterwards as we made our way to baggage, berating a cleaning staff member because the airport Burger King was closed at 11:30 p.m., as if the poor staff member even had control over that to begin with. I pointed a TSA person towards them and went on my merry way to see my not-so-baby sister. This was about a year ago, and I haven't really thought about it since, until one of my coworkers said something that reminded me of it, and so I decided to share it with you. Sorry it was so long. This is John from Slash Bash. I'm wondering if you can help me. YouTube sends out silver YouTube play buttons when a channel reaches 100,000 subscribers, and I am so close. I only need slightly more than 97,000 more subs, and I will get mine. Anything you can do to help me achieve that dream is much appreciated. So subscribe, like, share, and I will see you in the next one.